Well, good evening, folks. This is the channel Agronomy Blitz Accelerated Insights for Your Agronomic Advantage, the July 22nd edition. And as you can about guess, there's plenty to talk about this week, so let's dive right into it. Okay, quick update on growing degree day departure. So, again, we've ran this slide since the first one of these videos came out. And so, this is on the left looking at an April 20th plant date. So if you look for most of the state, you've got some areas that are starting to get a little bit behind where we'd like to see them probably for this time of year, just given the growing conditions and again being mid to late July. But for my direct area, if I can get the pen going here, for my direct area, really 47 units behind. That's not awful for the lowest point in the entire area. There's definitely some that are further behind, but as it sits today, nothing to be overly scared about. And of course, the markets are telling us and giving us the same indications. Now, if you would have started 2 weeks later on May 4th, over here on the right hand side, there are some areas where you would actually be a little bit ahead, but for the most part, looking about 10 to 20 units behind that April 20th plant date. So nothing too earth-shattering here, just a good update to look at and think about when it comes to planting date and decisions made. Similarly, again, we've ran this slide many times, looking at April 1st to date on total precipitation ranks by climate district. Again, it ranks each one of these climate districts from 1 to 133, and that's looking at 133 total years of data. If you're closer to 1, you're experiencing a wetter than normal trend, or if you're closer to 133, you're experiencing drier. So for South Central Nebraska, we're at number 58. So as it were on the map, we're just slightly above what they would call average at 75. But the bigger call out I would have for the major corn belt growing region here is the quick turn of face that we've had with just a couple seriously key rain events coming into the area here. We've turned a lot of these areas from white to brown to green. So a lot of work yet to be done, a lot of ways to go from pollination and then grain fill. But again, we're right in the storm, and it feels like we're headed in the right direction here. So a lot of progress has been made, but we've got a long way to go. So we've talked about the corn growth cycle and what this slide means. And again, just a weekly reminder: don't get caught up in that Tyler's trying to make you grow 400 bushel corn. This is simply a really good way to look at nutrient assimilation and use by growth stage, and then what that total usage by certain growth stages look like for corn. So, most of our corn's in this tassel growth stage right now. So again, not a ton of movement, but as we prepare to move from that tassel into that grain fill period, R4 is the next one we're looking at here, and we will have essentially utilized, 84% of our nitrogen uptake, 95% of our phosphate, 93% of our potash, and we're still sitting out here at about 60% of our sulfur. So again, if we're looking for something to spike in with a fertigation, really strongly recommend that guys look at this sulfur component. If you haven't thought about it before, that's a secondary macro that I feel like probably doesn't get enough spotlight time when it comes to what that can potentially do for corn growth development and yield potential. As we get into what's going on in the corn world. Again, most of it, I probably could have included tasseling up here, but we're anywhere from VT to R2. From the corn that I've seen in my territory, there's probably some really early pointed stuff that might be getting past, but we're essentially tassel to blister at this point. So why is that important? Obviously, water utilization and use is the highest it's ever going to be for this crop. So making sure we've got adequate water in front of us, whether that is watching the weather and making sure we have decent rain chances in the forecast, but more so managing that irrigation timing and making sure we've got enough water in front of this stuff to really finish it out. Uh, Again, we'll kind of talk into what it means to be in this stage from a tassel standpoint, and another slide coming up here. But obviously, a lot of planes, a lot of helicopters, a lot of drones starting to fly fungicides. So, what does that mean? What should we be looking for at this point in time? There's a few things that I like guys to think about. And again, if you're a consultant agronomist, if you're a seed professional, these are nothing new that you think about. And even most growers, I would tell you that are thinking this way. From a disease pressure standpoint, where am I finding these lesions on the plant? Am I at a treatment threshold? Is it bacterial or fungal? Do I know what I'm looking at from that aspect, making sure it's not gray leaf spot or bacterial leaf streak. How tolerant is my seed product? Is this something that my seed product has a rating for? Um, if it's low enough on the plant, do I think I could fight through it potentially? What's the disease history of the field that I'm on? Is it something that I just rented this year, so I really don't have an indicator, or is it something I've farmed my whole life? And yeah, I mean this has been a problem before, so it's probably not surprising that it's a problem again. And then what's the life cycle of the disease? Is this something that's getting toward the end of its lifetime and we think, again, this is something we could stave off, or is it just getting going and is it going to become more rampant and potentially take more leaf area from this plant and rob more yield off of us? So, very similarly with insect pressure, am I at a treatment threshold today with the pest I'm concerned about? Do I have that species identified correctly? And am I hitting it at the right time in the biological life cycle? Western bean cutworm comes to mind. Man, we've got such a short window from when those eggs hatch to when they can get into an ear and be fairly protected. It's a very short time span and opportunity to be able to get those controlled. Again, that field history piece. So I think about the corn rootworm world and everything that's going on with that. Um, has this field been corn on corn for 2 years or 20? What does that look like? And am I prepared to handle uh, the consequences of some of those, or do I need to be thinking next year about a rotation or something? What's my trait tolerance? What did I plant? From the hybrid that I planted, what opportunity or what protection am I getting in that bag of seed from a trait standpoint, and what can I expect that trait expression to look like, given the amount of insect pressure that I'm seeing today? So, all good things to think about. Again, tar spot update, several more confirmed fields. I mean, again, just because we are not seeing your county in yellow on this map, I would say if you're in a grayed out county, it's not if it'll be confirmed, it's when. Because you had spores present last year, was confirmed last year. Um, again, just be on the lookout for this one because uh, the quickness of this disease to move up and down the plant is very short time frame. So again, be thinking Delaro Complete for those applications. Talk to your local seed professional, talk to your local technical agronomist on the Bayer side, and walk through what those options are in terms of do I need to use Delaro Complete? Do I need to use Delaro? Is it a one pass situation or potentially a two pass situation? And when I say two pass, I go into this map looking at the Southern Rust, which blew up what seems like overnight last week. So lots of confirmed counties in eastern Nebraska. Again, I look for this one to move fairly quickly. Unfortunately, hate to be the bearer of bad news, but again, don't expect if it'll happen, just expect when. And so when I talk these multiple applications, um, Southern Rust to show up this early is what I would call fairly rare. This is usually one that shows up a lot later. So being able to manage through this and make sure that it doesn't take over the whole plant, because Southern Rust is a very opportunistic disease that can move up and down a plant very rapidly, but also start to affect the intactness of that stalk. So, we've got a long way to go to fill the kernels that we're pollinating today. Let's give this crop the best chance that it possibly can to get to the finish line. All right, so kind of the big topic of last week and this week is tassel wrap of corn. So, couple things that I would, I guess, ask for folks to do, and number one is being asking questions. Okay, this is going to be a topic that requires a lot of in-depth analysis and understanding of every management decision that went in from planting to date, and also understanding the overlapping weather conditions that were associated with those management decisions. Okay, so the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about today is really the potential consequences. So, obviously, flowering issues, the longer we wrap those tassels up and keep them wrapped up, the less pollen gets shed, and potentially the less kernels that get fertilized, right? The reality is it's all about the perception or the number of tassels that are actually wrapped up per field. Okay, so what I mean by this is obviously if you have most of that population or most of that field population that are wrapped up, that's when you're going to see the larger yield impacts. If you're talking 5 to 7% of plants that are exhibiting this, I'm probably not overly concerned about that at this point. Again, I want to make it through pollination to confirm that. But again, we've got a lot of plants shedding a lot of pollen around these as well. So the silks are going to do their job as shown in this picture. They're going to grow an inch to an inch and a half every day until pollinated. And again, the reality is you're going to have a lot of pollen shed going on besides these. So um, ask a lot of questions. If you have questions, reach out to your seed professional or your technical agronomist as well. All right, in the soybean world, a lot of beans obviously at full bloom. I would say most of mine are beginning pod. So R3 beginning pods. So pods are 3/16 of an inch long at one of the four uppermost nodes. So what begins to make this really critical is this is the starting point to where irrigation management becomes really critical in soybeans. Pod development. So how large that pod is going to be also dictates how large those seeds can be at the end of the year. Okay, so this is that point where I feel like a lot of guys were done post spraying, we got to canopy. It's kind of like, okay, I don't have to care about the beans near as much right now. Well, this is actually when we're switching mindset to when we need to really start critically managing water. Watch for stress, watch for things like sudden death syndrome, deck D stem borer, all those things. So, again, this is the time to get serious about soybeans if we haven't gotten there before. And then lastly here, again, I put this slide up every week just to remind us how important each stage in the growing cycle for corn and soybeans both really is for water uptake, what they're requiring per day and per week from us from an irrigation management standpoint. So again, if we're early tassel to, let's just say, blister and corn, you know, 32 hundredths water use rate of 32 hundredths per inch per day, and then again we go into early pod to pod development. You're looking 20 hundredths to 35 hundredths, okay, in soybean world. So now's the time, start doing the rain dance again, continue to manage this irrigation. We're in arguably the most critical time to keep water in front of this crop. So again, keep that in mind every week as we continue to manage for high yield potential. This one got a little long-winded. I hope you got something out of this. As always, guys, appreciate the viewership, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.